A rather wet Alton Park was the setting for the Bolton Le Mans Car Club Neil Howard stages. Straight to the action then, and onto the first few stages, and for Steve Simpson and Patrick Walsh, it would be the early lead, although they were finding out for themselves just how slippery the conditions were. Graham Coffey and Victoria Myers start the event with number 1 on the door, but it's second place for the pair at this stage, 10 seconds off the leaders after 3 stages. For Kevin Proctor and Derek Fawcett, it will be third, but the times were about as close as you could get, level on times with Coffey at this stage. First of the rear-wheel drive crews on the results sheets after stage 3 were James Sharrock and Stuart Folds, the pair lying 4th overall and 4th in Class D. And rounding out the top 5 in Class D will be David Turnbull and Tom Woodburn, the pair just outside the top 5 overall in 6th place. And the reason for Turnbull just missing out on the top 5 overall at this stage will be Steve Quigley and Tom Hutchings, the pair having a great run on the opening stages to lie in 5th overall and leading Class C. Second in the class were Julian Jones and Mikey Herritz, the pair lying in 8th, 23 seconds behind the class leaders. And 38 seconds would be the difference back to 3rd in the class, as Kevin Williams and Andrew George take that place in the early stages and lie in 13th overall. Just 1 place, and indeed just 1 second ahead of Pete and Sally Barlow, the Battle of the Escorts looking good in Class C this morning. And it will be a few places back overall for Lyndon Barton and Alex Portania. They round out the top 5 in Class C and lie in 20th overall. On to Class B then, and taking the early lead in that class were David Burns and Steve Hallmark, the Corsa pair having no problems and opening up half a minute of an advantage. For Dylan Thomas and Sarah Edwards, it will be second in the class. The pair a good way behind the class leaders on the overall results though in 21st. And there'd be problems from the start for Lee Farrer and Jordan Joins, the pair suffering with some fuel issues, but they sort it in service. They lie in 3rd place in the class now and just a single second behind Thomas up ahead. Plenty of variety in Class B, and 4th in the class will be Paul Sheard and Grant Williams, the Mazda pair just 10 seconds behind the Puma up ahead. And it will be a great start for Chris Phillips and Sarah Hughes, going well in the class before a couple of spins drop them down to 5th in the class and 30th overall. Tyre choice will be the talking point in service then. Just a few cars in Class A, and leading the way of those will be John Clayton and Stephen Booth, the Corsa pair gaining a good advantage at this stage. It's Battle of the Minis in the other places in the class, with Barry Stenhouse and Jackson Willett coming out on top of that battle at this stage. Helped a little with problems for Martin Melling and Graham Brandworth, the car not coping well with the water splash on this stage. So at the end of 3 stages, the overall results look like this. On to the next few stages, and no change at the top for Steve Simpson and Patrick Walsh. They keep the advantage, but only managing to extend it by a single second. So for Graham Coffey and Victoria Myers, it would still be second in the class and overall, keeping up with the leaders as they go into the last part of the rally. Kevin Proctor and Derek Fawcett had managed to briefly take second place, but they lose a little time with an overshoot after the water splash and drop down to 3rd once again. Unfortunately, the results take a shake-up when we lose James Sharrock and Stuart Folds in these stages from 4th place. And that means it's a step up the results for David Turnbull and Tom Woodburn now, as they move up into that 4th overall and 4th in the class too. And for Adrian Spencer and Mark Hewitt, it would also be a move up the results. Some good times pulling them up into 5th in class and overall on the leaderboard. And it would all be changing Class C as well, as Julian Jones and Mikey Herritz move up to take the top spot in the class, as well as 6th on the leaderboard. This will be down to problems for Steve Quigley and Tom Hutchings, losing time with a misfire after the water splash, as well as a brief off-road excursion into the gravel trap. No change for Kevin Williams and Andrew George as they remain 3rd in Class C, lying in 11th overall at this stage of the rally. And for Lyndon Barton and Alex Portania, there will be some small improvements in the results as they move up to 4th in the class now. Unfortunately for Pete and Sally Barlow, Barton's move up to 4th in the class means a move down to 5th in class themselves. Not helped with this spin on the slippery rally school stage, putting them 1 second behind Barton now. Class B takes a shake-up as we lose early leaders David Burns and Steve Hallmark in these stages. And that means that it's the lead now for previous second place Dylan Thomas and Sarah Edwards, now leading the class from 20th overall. For Lee Farah and Jordan Joins, it will be second in the class. The pair were making good progress on the results now and moving their way closer to the class lead, just 3 seconds between them. Chris Phillips and Sarah Hughes were also having a much better run this afternoon, the pair finishing stage 7 third in the class and lying just 17 seconds behind Farah now. No change for Paul Sheard and Grant Williams. They may have been leapfrogged in the class results by Phillips, but the pair were still safe in 4th for now. And moving up to take 5th in Class C now were Barry and Helen Grant. Their move up the results helped by setting a second fastest time on the slippery rally school stage, only beaten by Kevin Proctor in the World Rally Car. No change in Class A. John Clayton and Stephen Booth continue to lead the way in the class by a big margin now. And the gaps further back were getting bigger too. Barry Stenhouse and Jackson Willett continuing to lie in second place in their Mini. And the second Mini of Martin Melling and Graham Brandworth continues to round out the class with 3rd and 73rd overall. So with just a handful more stages to go, including the last couple in the dark, the results are looking like this. On to the final few stages then, and unfortunately we lose Alex and Katie Willen. Not getting to grips with the car this weekend, but at least it was fun for Katie's second event in that car. On to the finishers though, and it will be 71st overall for Martin Melling and Graham Brandworth as they take home 3rd in Class A. Barry Stenhouse and Jackson Willett in the second of the Minis have a good run to end the event where they started, holding 2nd in the class. And just as they had done all day, John Clayton and Stephen Booth end the event with the Class A win and 46th overall. No change for Barry and Helen Grant. They keep hold of that 5th in class, narrowly missing out on 4th by just 3 seconds. And in that 4th position, it will be a good jump up the results for Ben Wilkinson and Dave Batley. They end the day 4th in the class and 29th on the leaderboard. Dylan Thomas and Sarah Edwards unfortunately don't manage to hold on to the class lead into the final stages, ending the rally 3rd in the class. And it was a good result in the end for Chris Phillips and Sarah Hughes. They stopped spinning on the stages long enough just to move up to 2nd in the class and 23rd overall. But it would be a surprise Lee Farah and Jordan Jones that take the Class B win, even after the pair hit a chicane in stage 8, and the car dies over the final finish line, needing to be pushed into the final control. It doesn't get much more last minute than that. On to Class C, and it will be 5th in that class at the finish for Lyndon Barton and Alex Portania, unfortunately slipping back down to that position in these final stages of the rally. For Dave Willett and John Davies, it will be a great move to take 4th in the class, finishing the rally in 14th overall. Meanwhile, Kevin Williams and Andrew George managed to hold a steady pace all day to remain 3rd in the class right to the finish, as well as taking a good 12th overall too. Problems earlier in the rally stopped Steve Quigley and Tom Hutchings getting the top 5 result they started with, but the pair managed 2nd in Class C and 7th overall after some good times, equaling Tom's best overall finish on a rally. So for Julian Jones and Mikey Herritz, it would be a great result, finishing just outside the top 5 in 6th overall, and of course taking the Class C win. So on to the top places and the Class D finishers here at the Neil Howard Memorial Rally, and Adrian Spencer and Mark Hewitt managed to keep hold of that 5th place right to the finish. A great result for the pair this weekend. David Turnbull and Tom Woodburn, meanwhile, avoid any drama to remain in 4th place. A good result for the pair. Unfortunately for Graham Coffey and Victoria Myers, it would be a last-minute drop down to 3rd. They miss out on 2nd place by just a second. So that means it's a last-minute step up to the runner-up position for Kevin Proctor and Derek Fawcett. A very close finish, but one that went in their favour this time out. So for Steve Simpson and Patrick Walsh, it would be victory. We'd like to say it was never in doubt, but the pair even managed a scare in the final stages when they spin the car and lose a handful of seconds, finally taking the win by just 15 seconds overall. So at the end of the event, the results looked like this. Still to come on the show, we head to Yorkshire for the Moulton Forest Rally. See you after the break.